Why is it that we find comfort in similar people, especially in sometimes romantic partners? You know, you keep attracting narcissists for some reason, or you keep going towards a job or what you may call a career that doesn't feel fulfilling. Maybe you aren't wearing the type of clothes you want to be wearing. And why do we keep attracting people, places, and things that aren't fully in alignment with what we actually want? Even if that is financial abundance, even if it is romantic abundance, even deep and meaningful connections with others non-romantic. And it's usually coming from a familial parent pattern from when you grew up. Because what you used to tolerate as a child is what is now an autopilot for you. It is the thing that drives your desires currently. It's because you're comfortable with it. And within that comfort of that familiarity, yeah. It's what's all around in your air. Because you're just used to it. So in this video, I'm going to break down how to let go and shift so you can start attracting healthy people. And today we're having a tea with me, Ventzi, your divine feminine empowerment and spiritual awakening coach. Let's get it. So the reason why we find comfort in these things is, again, I basically gave you the answers in the intro. How do we shift? How do we start attracting healthy lovers? Because a lot of the times you may actually end up finding someone who is healthy for you, and they don't have like certain codependency or narcissistic traits where they go and love bomb you a bunch in the beginning, or sexualize things like crazy just to lure you in and hook you, or they use all your desires and then eventually they stop using those desires that, they would feed into your desires. They would give you what you desire in the beginning, and then later it would fade away. All of a sudden, it's like they changed, became a different person. It's because some part of you was comfortable with that growing up. So it's adding awareness to where did I have a controlling person in my life? Someone who wanted to manipulate and just give me just breadcrumbs when it felt like the full loaf, because you were basically, what's the word for it? Stockholm syndrome into believing that that's what you deserve. It's just adding awareness to who in your life created this type of scenario. And once you realize that, you can see like, oh, I tolerated this as a child. I allowed this to continue because guess what? Checking if we're recording. Get a little nervous with that sometimes. Because guess what? As a child, and you're living with your parents who may be toxic or dysfunctional or abusive, because my dad was growing up. And that's what I found to be familiar because I couldn't run away. When we're growing up and our parents don't provide us the love that we actually deserve, they don't know how to give it to us. And this doesn't make anything that anybody's ever done right to you because they didn't know how to love you. The biggest realization is that everyone is always acting at the highest level of consciousness that they're at. They really are doing their best. It's how they know how to love. It's from the inner work that they've done, which could be very little because no one showed them how. And that's why you're watching a video like this. And if you watch even this far into it, believe me, you're on a self-help transcendence journey for you to shift your reality. Because I tolerated a lot of the abuse and control from my dad. And what did that do? I ended up seeking out controlling partners. My last ex-girlfriend. I've been learning a lot about covert narcissism, and she was one of those. A lot of things shifted towards the end of our relationship. She started turning into somebody that she wasn't, like, not towards the end. This was a few months later. Just things just started getting weird. She was no longer emotionally available. She would just give me little breadcrumbs here and there. It would never be enough no matter what I did. And then every now and then she would just light the room up when I started realizing this relationship isn't working for me anymore. I would start pulling away and start thinking like maybe I should break up with her. And then all of a sudden, guess what? She wants to go on a shopping spree or wants to love bomb me. And it's like she notices it when you're starting to get off the hook, right? And then I kept thinking it's just going to get better. And then she would belittle me and tell me that I'm the problem. And whenever I came up to express my feelings or my emotions, I was shot down and somehow it's my fault. We couldn't even have a healthy conversation about her behavior because somehow it was my fault that she was reacting to me. And it's like, even if I'm coming up and breaking this down, let's figure it out. Now it's my fault. I should scurry away and hide my emotions. And that's what I did growing up with my dad. My dad was abusive. And I felt like he didn't care about my emotions or feelings. And what did I do? I was so comfortable with this relationship that I kept doing it to the point where one day she did get physically abusive with me. And I mentioned this in my other videos. And I still stayed. And I still try to love her and give her my best because I was already hooked. It was a payout. It was familiar. This is what I tolerated when I was young. So in the same way I tolerated it with her. I tolerated it with a work environment before in the past too. And it didn't matter how good and how much I excelled in that work environment. There was still a familiar comfortability of control, of being on a hook. Now through that also, here's another story where, and then guess what? Everything is a story, by the way. It's what's stored inside of you. This reflection is what you're getting in your reality from what's stored inside of you. And that's the story you keep telling yourself. So that's why you forgive it and you give it a new meaning. And you add awareness to it. And you realize you don't have to be like that anymore. Every moment is a new moment. You don't have to be comfortable with that. You can learn how to set boundaries with people because I didn't. And I got to learn the hard way. And it was going to happen either way. At one point, I was going to have to figure out how to do it because nobody taught me to set boundaries in growing up. And my dad surely would not believe in them. You know, things got so wild when I was younger. It was like one time my mom was like, well, I don't know, tea sessions, yo. My dad was like beating my mom. And I was like 7 years old, and my mom was like begging to call the police. Like I should call the police. And I started grabbing the phone and like dialing it as a kid. And my dad's like, Ventzi, put the phone down. You know, like, and I was like trembling. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like as he's hitting her with a belt, and like my mom's screaming and crying. You know, and I really had it just kind of blocked out the rest of it. And then like I think my dad said like you'll be next or something, and it scared the crap out of me. Right. And then when I tried to seek counseling and therapy, like growing up and like going into junior high and stuff because of all this stuff, I asked a counselor once, like, hey, like, what if I'm getting abused at home, just, you know, hypothetically, like what happens? Like, oh, we'll have to report it and all this stuff and get the police involved. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, I was dying inside and I had to suppress that and I really needed help and I didn't get the help I needed for so long because my dad told me he would break every single bone in my body if I ever went to the police. And he also said if he ever did go to jail because of it, when he got out, he would also break every single bone in my body. And he did physically abuse me. So I was scared and I hid and I allowed things to happen. So the story I want to point out is my childhood best friend, and I adore him. We've created distance multiple times within our friendship, and we are pretty distant now. He is still family to me. Either way though, this kid also had trauma. And I didn't really realize the trauma he had. I didn't really understand it. And I think he had some stuff happen to him when he was younger with his father too. And the thing is he, and because he is, he's diagnosed with ADHD, or he was on Adderall for a long time growing up. Either way, though, he used to put me in headlocks when we first started becoming friends for like years, and like it sucked. It sucked every single time. I was like 8 or 9 years old, maybe 7 when we met, and like when he would take me over, his mom would come pick me up, and we'd go to his place, and like I would stay there for the weekend. It was like my escape. I'm really grateful for it because it was way better than being at home. And that kind of continued for a while throughout our teenage years. We were best friends, and he was always there for me. It was like my second family, and I am forever grateful. However, he would put me in these headlocks. I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't want to hurt him, or I didn't want to like push him off, or I tried and I just kind of give up, and it sucks. Sometimes he would put me in a headlock for so long, like just keep doing it, and like constantly I remember one time we were walking around Barnes and Noble, and he had me around in a headlock the whole fucking time, and I'm like, wanting help. I remember asking some people like, hey, can you help me? And like, I don't know, nobody really did help, which is freaking weird. It's weird how like the universe reflects stuff to you, because I was tolerating it though. I kept going back. I kept being excited to go see him and hang out with him, no matter of the pain he would put me through every now and then, just because of his own issues. He was going through his own thing. I think he did get a counselor at some point in his life as well, and whatnot. I think, well, to be on Adderall, I think you have to be seeing like a psychologist. Either way, though, eventually when we grew up in our teenage years, that stopped. However, I had this realization and awareness that I also allowed that, and I tolerated that from my friends. And I also attracted people who felt like friends. I ended up people pleasing, giving too much, because I had a worthiness wound that mom and dad weren't really there for me growing up. And I felt like I wasn't loved, so I just gave and gave. And being a people pleaser is slightly manipulative. It is. You're doing stuff to get validation and approval, because you're too afraid people won't like the real you. So again, this friend I attracted from the reflection of my dad, and I tolerated that friendship or his behavior, and I tried to set boundaries. It didn't really work. I didn't really know how. However, I could have said no. I could have said no to hanging out, but it was better than being at home. So I went to the next best thing, even if there was a little bit of pain, but I still tolerated that pain. And I still tolerated that pain. Right? And up until now, I don't tolerate that stuff now. Now I know how to set healthy boundaries. The thing is, though, is that's what I mean. You get to learn how to set these boundaries. And as we grew up towards our teenage years, I started telling him no. I started telling him, stop. I got strong. I was working out a lot. I was starting to become very untouchable in general. And I actually grew an addiction to training and working out when I was like 12 years old and getting bigger, so I can be strong, so I can protect myself from my dad. And I got pretty freaking ripped. So, which led to a training, personal training management career later in my life. Either way, though, our friendship was chill. Like, he figured it out. He started also losing other friends because of the way he was acting. However, I said it was comfortable for me, right? So I also had that awareness on where else did I let people control me besides my dad. So once I added the awareness, it's like you can let go. You can realize you can set boundaries with people. You don't have to have them in your life, because your peace is more valuable than them putting it into pieces. Because you're worthy of that love. Now, the thing is too is it's about unlearning what you choose to believe you're tolerating, what's in autopilot in your mind. Just like in the movie The Matrix, when Morpheus, I believe, was talking to Neo, he's like, you got to get rid of your fear, your disbelief, your doubts. If you want to become the conscious creator, essentially, right? If you want to be able to control the Matrix. So what you're willing to tolerate and what's in in a conscious or subconscious belief, because it's running on autopilot, becoming aware of it, it's like, oh, here's where I tolerated this in my life. I don't have to do that anymore. And guess what? You get to get into the creative flow of learning how to set proper, healthy boundaries. Look it up on Google. Have conversations with people. Stepping into vulnerability, into your fullest expression of self and how you feel, and having that difficult conversation, no matter how gut-wrenching it may be. Not because I want you to stop this behavior or else. It's, hey, if you really want to continue a relationship with someone, it is incremental adjustment to each other. Otherwise, you have no relationship. And if they're not willing to put the effort in after you talk to them about how you're feeling when they do this, not when they do something, you feel something else, because then you're giving them your power. Like, oh, I feel, this when you do this. No, I'm sorry. That's actually correct. It's, you make me feel this way. You make me feel. You. That's taking. No, that's giving them your power. I've been a little off today, so it's you make me feel this way means that they're doing it to you. You now let go of the control you have of your emotions. And the more you keep saying that, the more you give them power. So it's, I feel this way. I choose to feel this way when you do this. And set the boundary. Are you capable of, ceasing this behavior so we can have incremental improvement with each other and see if we can continue a friendship or relationship, because this is no longer pleasant for me. And I would like to have growth in our relationship. Ask, find creative ways. I didn't even plan any of this. This is just being vulnerable and straightforward. And if it's like, what are you afraid of? Them saying no? Nope, I don't think I can do it. Okay, hey, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. It's time for us to move on, and I wish you the best on your journey. I've had to do that with a few friends recently. Oh, I still see them as like friends. Not too recently, a little bit ago. We're just in different places, and there were some things that I did not enjoy in the friendship. And it's funny because I actually did vulnerably express to make the shift together, and they tried, and then at the end of it, it was just kind of like, we're gonna have like this meeting, and then all of a sudden just 180 flip, like they just weren't ready to be this new version. And I was like, hey, great, I wish you the best on your journey. So, and again, the point is, learn how to set healthy boundaries, release and unlearn the things that are keeping you stuck. Because the more you can let go and add awareness to the things that are keeping you stuck, what you're willing to tolerate, you're going to let it go, and you will be more attracted to. It's not just you attracting, it's you'll be more attracted to a healthy relationship. Because sometimes you may not even know what that looks like, and you could have had the perfect partner. So it wasn't familiar. It wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel safe, because there's a feeling of safety in the known, in the comfortability, not in the unknown. The unknown of this person acts way different. What am I going to learn here and experience? I don't want to experience that. I want to stay safe to what I've been experiencing and all the safety nets I've put in front of myself to stop me from having a healthy relationship. Guess what? You got to do the work too. And part of the work is you stepping into vulnerability and expression and being able to communicate how you feel and letting go of what you're willing to tolerate that you no longer want to tolerate. Okay, so I hope this helps you. Have a wonderful, magnificent, transformative, alchemizing day, beautiful cosmic soul. Please like and subscribe, hit that notification button, and love and light vibration out. Bye.